Now, in Algebra, the very first topic that they are featuring is polynomials, in which they expect us to know change of subject of formula, multiplication and division of polynomials, factorization of polynomial of degree 3 and degree 2 and co. And in that case, you need to know your difference of two squares as featured here. Okay, that a square minus b square is nothing but a plus b and a minus b. You will find it useful in solving some questions. And then if you can get to know the sum and the difference of two cubes as expressed here, that will also be very, very good and very, very interesting for you. So this can help you to find roots of quadratic equation when you are factorizing. Okay, then very interesting is the factor theorem and the remainder theorem. That, for example, if you have this type of polynomial, you can see it's of degree 3. Then if you are looking for one of its roots, you can use the factor theorem, and that means that if you take that particular factor, in this case, if it is x minus a, it's 0, then you can equate x to be equal to a such that the function of a, if you put the value for the expression of a into the equation, then it will be equal to 0. It being equal to 0 is actually the definition of the remainder theorem, because 0 here is a remainder. 0 means nothing. If there is a remainder, then it will be equal to that remainder. Okay, so this factor theorem and remainder theorem helps a lot when you are solving some polynomials and also even factoring them out, which feature from time to time on your questions. Okay, and sometimes, okay, you have given questions in which you have to make another variable the subject of the formula. That will warrant that you need to rearrange and do the normal algebra processes, multiply, divide, subtract, add, until you make that new variable here, q, until you make it the subject of the formula. Now, you need to be careful. There is a trend of question I'm seeing that you'll be given a quadratic expression and you'll be asked to make the variable the subject of the formula. This is not hard. Once you are seeing questions like this, all you need to recall is your quadratic equation, in which you can use your formula method to solve. So here, just like you have x in the quadratic equation to be x equal to minus b plus or minus square root of b square minus 4ac over 2a. Here, t, you can express like that. You just need to know the a, the b, and the c, and you can get the solution for that change of subject wonderfully. Okay, in talking about variations, you need to know your direct, your inverse, and your joint variation. Okay, and sometimes partial variation too, in which you will be able to interpret the expression, which will be a word problem. You will be able to express it as a variation. Then you can introduce your constants. Then, like in this case, you can put in the values of those variables so that you get your constant, you get your equation, and then whatever is being asked afterward, you are good to go with them. Now, there's something with inequalities that I've noticed that students, they don't normally get, is that whenever you find your answer in inequalities, you need to always test. Okay, and that inequalities doesn't necessarily need to be a linear expression. Sometimes you can be given a graph and you'll be asked to find the expression that graph is qualifying. Like in this particular case, you have this, you can see you have this quadratic graph, you have this straight line graph. You can say, you can be asked to find the shaded region in this particular diagram being featured in inequality. Already, you can get this as a means of your normal quadratic and linear equation, but now they can also ask in inequality. So you need to know how to represent this judiciously and correctly as appropriate. Okay, and then here, progressions in which you can look at the arithmetic progression or the geometric progression. Now, there is a general formula for the nth term, for the sum, for both the arithmetic progression and the geometric progression. And what I need you to pay attention to is that for geometric progression, there are two different formulas here that you are going to be using, particularly as denoted your common ratio. When the common ratio is less than 1, this is the equation that you use. And when the common ratio is greater than 1, this is the equation that you use. However, whenever you are being asked to work with the sum to infinity, you have to make use of a over 1 minus r. And note that when you are working with that, your common ratio is between -1 and +1. Most of the time, it will lead to equations that you need to solve. Like in this particular case, you may be given two different terms that you can express. They can say the 4th term is 3, the 13th term is 39. Find the 7th term. For you to get the 7th term, you need to first look at the means of finding the first term, which is a, and the common difference. So if you express this general equation, you need to solve this simultaneously. You get your first term, get your common difference, and then use in the general formula for the nth term to find the 7th term. The same thing also applies with geometric progression, but what you will be doing here is that you will be dividing the two equations. Like here, you will see that the first term a and a will cut out, so r will be remaining, and then that r you can find is root to the nth power of this expression on the right hand side as appropriate. And these are tips that will help you to solve your progression problems correctly. Now, in binary operations, most of the time you are asked to find a particular operation or to find the identity element of a particular binary operation. All you just need to do is to follow the guide that x operating the identity element will give you x, then the identity element operating x will still give you x. So you can equate those two and you can find that particular identity element and solve your question as appropriate. Matrices are determinant are mostly unescapable. There's no way you can just dodge them in the exam. They will feature one way or the other, in which you can be looking at a means of looking for an unknown, even in indeterminants. Or sometimes you may even be asked to find the determinant of 3 by 3 matrix, and then there's a guide on how to go about solving them. You don't need to worry. We have past questions that we have treated on all of this. In short, all questions for each year for JAMB that we featured on our channel, you can check out that link in the description and you have access to them, so that all of this you are going to actually find a means of solving them, of mastering them. Even if you are weak in any one of them, then you can go through our playlist, go through our videos, and you can master them and face your exam with all boldness and with full assurance that you are going to make this your year of excellence. Okay, now sometimes they will express matrices like this and they will ask you to find x and y. Okay, now this inherently is just an expression for a simultaneous equation in which you are multiplying row by column. So this is like you are saying 5x minus 6y is equal to 7, or 2x minus 7y is equal to minus 11. So you can solve by simultaneous equation, or you can even do multiplication of matrices. Like here, you can just say you are pre-multiplying both by the inverse of this first matrix. So that inverse and this matrix, they will give you a unit matrix, and unit matrix is just like 1. That is for the left hand side. If you are multiplying, you are pre-multiplying on the right hand side, then you can do your row and column, and then you get the answer out for your x and y by multiplying the inverse of this with this particular right hand matrix. All right, so those are the features of matrices, and you'll be good to go with all the topics that are featured on Algebra.